Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The LA Sparks are back in action tonight against the Washington Mystics. 7 p.m. tip-off at the Pyramid at Long Beach State. The Sparks are looking for their first win in the WNBA season after an 0-2 start. Next game for the Sparks is Friday night at Crypto.com against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Congratulations to New Orleans Pelicans guard C.J. McCollum. McCollum was named the winner of the NBA's Walter Kennedy Citizenship Award. McCollum started a $1.1 million scholarship program that provides Pell Grants to help qualifying high school seniors in New Orleans pay for college. Students don't have to pay back whatever amount of money they get from a Pell Grant. Florida A&M and Texas Southern are the top 2 seeds in the SWAC baseball tournament. The HBCU event begins Wednesday in Birmingham, Alabama. The SWAC championship game is Sunday. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising@KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got your Black.
You can be up and looking down. A right of day to sorrow will bring. Oh. You hear the voice of freedom, telling you this can never be down. No matter how high reality seems, just hold on to your dream, yeah.
That's right. You can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. That is the truth, ain't it? Live from our nation's capital, you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and chief national political analyst, and feeling extra good because I had a really great lunch at the Gathering Spot in DC. If you are a member of the Gathering Spot in DC, you should come on out to the DC Gathering Spot sometime soon. Because let me tell you, that catfish and grits number, wow, it is something to write home about. Chef Art really did the business there. So if you're looking for something savory, just saying. And if you're at the Gathering Spot in LA or Atlanta, make sure you have their chef. Call Chef Art in DC for that recipe. That's how good it is. And so proud Gathering Spot member here. Moving along, I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's Nii-Quartelai. Pro tip: if you just type in Dr. Nee, boom, bam, boom, I show right on up. You can't miss me. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to a More Perfect Union podcast powered by KBLA Talk 1580, and you'll never, ever, ever miss an episode. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And kicking us off, NBC News reporting that the defense has rest in the Trump hush money trial without former president's testimony. Lawyers for Donald Trump rested their case today without calling him to testify in this first criminal trial for the former president. And after a defense witness got into a heated back and forth with one of the prosecutors, Trump had said before the trial that he would absolutely testify. That's what he said. Quote, "I'm testifying. I tell the truth. I mean, all I can do is tell the truth. And the truth is that there is no case." That's what he said on April 12th. Though he has since softened his stance, his lawyer, Alina Habba, who represented Trump in his civil trials, but not the criminal case, told Fox News just on Monday that Trump, quotes, "wants to testify. He's absolutely ready to tell the truth." That's what she said. I don't know. That sounded like a tall tale because it didn't happen. We'll see whether or not the former president lives to regret that once the jury reaches a verdict, if they reach a verdict at all. We shall see. You know what else we'll see? We'll see some election results about this time tomorrow, at least we hope. Primaries taking place in places like Georgia, Oregon, Kentucky, and Idaho. There are some high-stake races that we want to make sure we're paying attention to. We know that 4 states will vote today in critical 2024 primaries with implications on former President Trump's Georgia election interference case and several competitive and potentially decisive House races that could shape the balance of power in Congress. We know that 2 major players indicted, or rather 2 major players indicted alongside Trump in the Georgia criminal case will be on the local Fulton County ballot today. And the results of the races could put further strain on the already controversy-enmeshed legal proceedings. And so we know that both the lead prosecutor and judge in Trump's Georgia election interference case are up for re-election. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is facing a primary challenge from Christian Wise Smith in the Democratic primary, while Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee is going head-to-head with attorney Robert Patillo in the nonpartisan contest. McAfee was first appointed to the position by Republican Governor Brian Kemp in 2022, and he's seeking his first full term in the position. We also know that there are pro-Israel super PACs that are wading into these primaries as divides among Americans over the U.S. response to the war in Gaza grows. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, also known as AIPAC, pro-Israel lobbying group, is weighing in on key races. The group Super PAC United Democracy Project spent about $300,000 on an ad campaign bashing Representative Thomas Massey, a Republican of Kentucky, a 7-term lawmaker who's facing 2 challengers in the Republican primary. We also know that in Oregon, primaries in 3 other Oregon districts are setting the stage for November's showdowns that could determine the balance of power in the current narrowly divided U.S. House next year. The fate of Oregon's 4th congressional district it could rest on the results of a 2-person Republican primary. There's so much going on in Oregon and in so many other places, and so we'll be sure to keep you posted tomorrow on how things turned out democracy can be a contact sport, and folks are doing everything they can to make as much voter contact before the polls close. We'll see what difference that makes in results. From the United States to Israel, where we're learning that Israel has returned some seized Associated Press equipment after stopping Gaza video feed. Israeli officials seized equipment from the Associated Press and shut down its longstanding video feed of northern Gaza today, saying that the wire service ran afoul of a new foreign press law that the Israeli government used to ban Al Jazeera. The move was quickly denounced by free press advocates who portrayed it as an escalation of an effort to restrict coverage of the Israel-Hamas war. But hours later, the Associated Press is reporting that amid mounting criticism and direct contact from the White House, Israeli officials seem to reverse course. Israel's Minister of Communications said in a statement that the country's defense ministry wanted to look into security risk posed by the broadcast. In the meantime, they were ordered to cancel the operation and return the equipment. And so that is the latest that we're hearing coming out of that region with regard to freedom of the press. But keeping with the conflict for just a moment, NBC is reporting that Biden is at odds with allies as the U.S. and Israel attack the ICC over arrest warrants. The U.S. found itself at odds with some key allies today after the president denounced the chief prosecutor of the world's top war crimes court for seeking arrest warrants for Israeli and Hamas leaders. Breaking with Biden, France and Belgium were among a number of countries to defend the independence of the International Criminal Court after prosecutor Karim Khan accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, as well as others, for alleged war crimes. And so that is the latest there. Back at home, where a lot of people are just as concerned about the economy as they are about the conflicts overseas. And I said conflicts plural because it's more than just Israel in Gaza and Congo and Haiti. There's a lot of conflicts afoot. But Pixar is laying off 14% of its workforce as Disney scales back content. Now, these were long expected layoffs, but they're still hitting the Pixar animation studio pretty hard. Pixar will lay off about 175 employees, or around 14% of their studio's workforce, according to a spokesperson for the Walt Disney Company. The cuts come as CEO Bob Iger works towards his overarching mandate to focus on quality content, not quantity of content. And speaking of quality over quantity, is McDonald's nixing free refills? Here's what we know as the chain phases out the self-serve drink machine. McDonald's is nixing self-serve beverage stations from its U.S. fast food restaurants, and some locations may soon begin charging for refills. Say it ain't so. The fast food chain announced plans last year to slowly remove the machine with the goal of eliminating them from all stores by 2032. Some Golden Arches franchises some franchise holders have already begun the transition away from self-serve drinks. Now, McDonald's says you may encounter charges for drink refills depending on what location you go to. Say it ain't so. Well, it is so, according to McDonald's. When we come forward, I am delighted to welcome Sheila Clark. She's the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association. We pride ourselves in talking to folks that are experts in consumer protections, and we think that it's important that you be in the know in terms of what is happening and not happening, particularly in hospice care. Because if it's not you, if it's not a loved one, it may be somebody that you know where this information could make a major difference in their life. You want to protect yourself against fraud, or your friends or family against fraud in hospice, don't go anywhere. Sheila Clark, the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association, will be joining me when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. First, thank you for your support of KBLA Talk 1580. We deeply appreciate you. So, I get asked all the time, Tavis, when are you going to bring back that State of the Black Union symposium you used to do? You know, the one where you had all those black intellectuals on stage every year and everybody watched all day live on C-SPAN. Yeah, I know the one.
Let's bring them back.
Well, I am pleased to tell you that if you go to KBLA1580.com right now, you can sign up to be in the audience here in Los Angeles when we go back live on C-SPAN with a stage full of black thinkers and influencers for a historic conversation. America has never seen a stage full of black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's going down Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. Once we reach capacity, you'll have to watch us on C-SPAN. But if you want to be in the room when we go live from Los Angeles, Tuesday, June 18th, head to KBLA1580.com right now to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. With KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
The Supplemental Security Income Program provides monthly payments to help meet basic needs, like putting food on the table, paying the rent, or buying new shoes for growing feet. You may qualify if your income and financial resources are low, and you are 65 or older, or an adult or child with a disability, or who is blind. Call 1-800-772-1213 or go to ssa.gov/SSI to start to apply. Produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk. We're unapologetically progressive and we don't black down.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. And look, if you have a loved one or if it's somebody that you know that is in hospice care or on the cusp of being in hospice care, you do not want to miss this conversation. I'm delighted to welcome Sheila Clark. She's the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association. Welcome to the show, Sheila.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here and for helping us make sense out of this crisis that may be flying under the radar for so many people. Just to get our audience up to speed on this, ProPublica recently published an article really earlier this year on how Medicare is certifying hospices in California despite a state ban on new licenses. And just to give everybody a lay of the land, there's a lot of folks that are saying that 2023 was a banner year for hospice reform, spurred by media reports and letters from Congress, pressure from lobbying groups. including the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And folks are calling to retool inspections and focus on quality of care. Sheila, tell us, how well is Medicaid Services doing in advancing the kind of reforms that everybody's calling for?
Well, they're doing well. They need to do more. I can tell you in California, in 2019, when I really noticed all of this fraud and abuse and what was going on, California lawmakers have acted swiftly. And the California audit report on the fraudulent hospice providers really shined a light on all of the, we call them scammers, that are out there taking advantage of people in our community.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to understand what taking advantage ultimately does. It drains the Medicare reserve. So for a lot of people that are depending on Medicare, it actually provides less of a resource pool for them to pull from. It obviously negatively impacts patients, and it also prevents enrollment or can cut off enrollment to what's called curative care. And so, in other words, if you are, a cancer patient, right, and maybe you're in remission, maybe you're on the road to remission, well, being logged in as somebody in hospice care, it redirects those resources that you might need, for your medicines and for other care, and that could be highly problematic, no?
Absolutely. And what I like to say to the audience and the folks that I talk to, and we get a plethora of calls about this daily, weekly, monthly, is when a beneficiary elects the Medi-Cal, Medicaid, or Medicare hospice benefit, that election is sent to Medicare or to the state that says this beneficiary has elected the hospice benefit. And what that does is, and it has consequences, and this is what we're teaching on all the time, is that the other benefits that you seek are turned off. It goes to the off switch because the way, and it's a complicated benefit, it's the richest benefit, hospice, under the Medicare umbrella, but your benefits go to the off switch because the beneficiary has chosen hospice care. So the hospice is going to take care of all of their needs. There may be a caveat that if I get into an accident, I fall and I break my hip, maybe that's not covered. But in the case of the ProPublica article, there was a beneficiary who was enrolled fraudulently, and that happened in November, and her pacemaker needed to be checked. The batteries needed to be checked. She needed her therapy so she could continue to move. She needed to be seen by her nurse practitioner. And when they tried to access those services, they were stopped. They said, no, you're on hospice. They never enrolled in hospice. And California is, and especially in LA, is the epicenter of the fraudulent.
That's right. And that was a call from Anna Duran, whose mother had been in a nursing home in Los Angeles County since 2010. And so, these stories, are not just sort of way out there in the ether, but these are our friends, these are our neighbors, these are family members. Talk to us a little bit about the role that shame can play in terms of people raising their hand and asking for help. Sometimes people may recognize that something is not right, or they may even recognize that they are the victim of fraud, but they may have a delayed reaction in terms of seeking help because they may feel a sense of shame. Talk to us about how that's shown up in the work as you've seen it.
Absolutely. And that is something, the shame that they feel that they were taken advantage of. We work with many families And I can tell you one was, oh my gosh, as we were working through it, well, let's call your daughter. Let's call your son. No, please don't get them involved. They're going to want, I don't want them to know. They're going to think I can't take care of myself. So you are spot on with the shame, the guilt. How did I let this happen to me? How did I let it happen to my wife? I had a similar case where cataract surgery was put on pause because this beneficiary was in hospice, and she ended up falling and breaking her hip because while we were trying to untangle this fraudulent election, and she ended up in a nursing home. And the husband was just so upset that how could I let this happen? And it is not their fault. First and foremost, that is what we tell them. This is not your fault. As with Anna's case, this is not, your mom's fault. This is not the nursing home's fault. This is not your fault that you were taken advantage of by scammers. And the reason I use scammers is because it translates really well in many languages, right? You can call them fraudsters, you can call them bad actors. And the word that we have found, Dr. Quartelai, is that the word scammer translates well in all language.
That's right. Well, we are turning the lights on scammers.
Yes, we are.
Where can people go to learn more about the resources that are out there so they can better identify these scammers before they are successful with their scams?
Absolutely. So we work very closely with Cal Health Advocates, which is part of Senior Medicare Patrol. Senior Medicare Patrol is a government-funded watchdog group. And we should know that in LA specifically, but also all of California, hospice fraud is in the top 3. Think about that. Hospice fraud is in the top 3. So you can go to calhealthadvocates.org. And you can learn about how to protect yourself and your loved ones from Medicare fraud. You can reach out to them at 855-613-7080. You can also go to calhospice.org. We have an entire page that is dedicated to hospice fraud, as well as our toolkit, where there are videos, radio spots, to really what we call is peel that onion, and how to make sure you're not a victim of fraud. Be careful. Never, ever give your information out, ever.
Yeah, never give your information out. We've got some more nuggets for each and every one of our leaders, learners, and listeners. I'm talking to Sheila Clark, the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association, on how to protect yourself, your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors from the kind of hospice fraud and other scams out there that we should be aware of. More with Sheila Clark when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and couldn't be more delighted to be in conversation with Sheila Clark. She is the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association. It's a trade group of providers, and she has for a long time been on the front lines fighting back against some of the fraudsters out there that are really leaning into one of the top 3 frauds that are out there right now. It's called hospice fraud. And they are defrauding some of our fellow Americans and really creating a big problem for the Medicare and Medicaid system. Sheila, before we went to break, you were sharing a little bit about some of the resources that are out there for people, as you were encouraging folks to overcome the shame that sometimes sets in, having been the victim of fraud. Talk to us a little bit about how you got into this line of work. What made you, want to be a part of the consumer protection movement, but narrowly focused on folks experiencing Medicare, Medicaid fraud, hospice fraud? What made you pursue this?
Well, I've been the president and CEO here since 2019, but I've been in hospice. I'm going to date myself for a very long time, since 1997, and I fell in love with the concept and all the good that hospice can do. And specifically, I spent the majority of my career in California, and I had seen, I kept to myself and kept to my hospice and serving patients and families, but I seen the direction that hospice was taking, and I felt that I needed to do more. And when the position opened up here at the association, we're a nonprofit 5013C, so our main focus is serving patients and families. I felt that call to action to do something, to make it better, to stop such a beautiful benefit that can do so much for those that are facing this difficult choice. And then I see the folks that were not doing, well, we're scamming and taking advantage of them. I just said, I've got to make a difference. And that's where I am today.
And make a difference you have. I didn't expect you to talk about having fell in love with the idea of hospice. For a lot of people out there, just the word sort of invokes a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
Talk to us about, what is it about this idea of hospice that you fell in love with?
Okay, so I, with the hospice that I worked with, Esther Cauliflower and Hugh Westbrook actually helped form the Medicare hospice benefit in DC. I shadowed, what we call shadowing. I shadowed a nurse in Miami, Florida, and she took me to a home and she said, this is going to be sad, what this woman is going through. She's by herself. And it was heartbreaking, but at the same time, what we were providing to her to get her through this horrible, she had HIV, she had AIDS, and her family had left her. And we were there to help her and take care of her. And what that nurse did at the bedside, it was like, I need to be part of that. Wow. I need to be part of that. So that is what got me into hospice.
Wow. What a beautiful story. I mean, I remember not too long ago, a few years ago, I got this invitation to speak at the End Well Summit. And,
yes.
there's a
Shoshana.
lot of folks. Yeah, Dr. Shoshana, a lot of
Yes.
folks who work in the hospice and palliative care space attend that conference. I had no knowledge of it before I received that invitation. And, I wasn't so sure if I wanted to take them up on that invitation because I was thinking, well, what do I have to say about end of life care? Right.
Yeah.
And I had a very outdated view of what this InWell Summit was all about. And when people in the business of palliative care and hospice care, when they get together, I thought, oh, that's going to be really dark. And,
Yeah.
who wants to go to that? And it was
Yes.
actually quite the opposite. I think a lot of the people who work in palliative care actually have quite a zest for life, right? It's not like they're tracking down, people who may be in their last days, but talk to us a little bit about just sort of the culture around folks who work in palliative care.
Yes. We want to make a difference. We want to make a difference. We want to inform folks before it becomes a crisis. And I can tell you what would break my heart and what I love is to be able to go out and help patients and families, and to be in an ICU where you have the children around the bed or their loved one, and having to make those decisions at that moment. Having to make those decisions at that moment is heartbreaking for me to watch that. So all of us in hospice and palliative care, we want to see those decisions just to talk about it. We have resources on our website called 5 Wishes on how to have those conversations, but let's have them upstream. So when and if, because we all are going to die, we don't have an expiration date on the bottom of our foot. So we just don't know. So our wish is to have those conversations more upstream. So it's a better experience, and there's not so much angst and trepidation and just, oh my gosh, feeling overwhelmed. And I'm so glad that you attended InWell. It's a great resource.
It is a great resource. And if you haven't been to the InWell Summit, there it is on your screen for the people that are streaming. You should check it out. It's going to be in Los Angeles later this year, November 22nd, 2024. It's going to be in LA. And dare I say, it is one of the best summits out there. If you like TED Talks, you're really going to enjoy the InWell Summit. And, don't be like me and, think about an end of life summit and palliative care, as something, dark and, uninspiring, but it's actually quite the opposite. And Dr. Shoshana has done a marvelous job among so many other people building this movement around allowing people to end well with dignity and end well free of discrimination. I did a talk there some years ago, particularly related to the Stonewall generation and some of the discrimination that LGBTQ older adults in particular experience. And so before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to put an exclamation point around the one thing you really want our audience to walk away from this conversation with.
I'd like them to be informed. I'd like them to become part of this community of how we support and protect each other. And we can do that by becoming educated about the fraud that's out there. But it is a bad thing, right? And everybody's like, oh, fraud. I don't think that's going to happen to me. It can when you least expect it. And becoming a volunteer within your community with the Senior Medicare Patrol, Cal Health Advocates, you get an opportunity to really embrace your community. And it doesn't have to be, 50, 60 people. It can be at your church, at your community center. And just being able to make that connection and be a resource for those in your community, right? Because we tend to open up more with those that we feel comfortable with. And that is an excellent place to start.
I think you're right. And I want to encourage all of our leaders, learners, and listeners to log on to calhospice.org /hospice dash fraud, where you can really lean into all these tips, tools, and resources that are at your fingertips. We want to make sure that all of our leaders, learners, listeners, and loved ones are protected from the fraudsters out there. And in about a minute, Sheila, I've got to ask you, what's your message to some of the fraudsters out there that might be listening to us right now?
It's going to change. We are working in California, lawmakers, the Department of Public Health, the Department of Healthcare Services, and at a federal level. I will be in Washington, D.C. the week of June 9th, meeting with lawmakers, meeting with program integrity. Go make widgets. That's what my news is for them. Go make widgets.
We're coming for you, scammers. We are coming for you. Sheila, after you visit Capitol Hill, please be sure to come on back and give us an update on some of the work.
I will. I would love to.
We really dig what you're doing, and keep up the good work. Our thanks to Sheila Clark, the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association. When we come forward, it's about that time for the quiet part out loud. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Have you been a victim or witness to hate or discrimination? Contact the California vs. Hate hotline to report the incident by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. They'll help you access resources and support, including legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. California vs. Hate is not affiliated with the police, and you can report anonymously. Use your voice. Report hate by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. Res Radio 91.3.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
And you're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's about that time, folks. It's time for the quiet part out loud. We've been in conversation for quite a bit with Sheila Clark. I was just talking to Sheila, who is the president of the California Hospice and Palliative Care Association. And I really hope that people go to the website to check out more information on that. But it's important that we are also talking about not just the crisis that is impacting folks that are in hospice or people that aren't in hospice who are being misdirected to hospice or whose resources are being misdirected to hospice, but we're also talking about our nation's caregivers. And I saw this one story on NPR that I absolutely had to share with you about Black men, how Black men are a hidden segment of caregivers, and it certainly is stressful, but it is also rewarding. NPR reported on the story about Robert Turner, whose father was 85 and ended up in the hospital just overnight. And Turner had just picked him up and helped him into the car so he could take him back to the family home in New Jersey. And on his way back in the driveway of the house where he grew up, Turner, eased his dad out of the car with the help of their home health aide. And they supported him up the stairs and settled him into the chair in the living room. Well, what happens if he's not there? What happened if Robert didn't exist? Robert, in so many ways, he represents the backbone of so many other people that hold up our care system in this country. We typically recognize nurses and doctors and CNAs, and of course, they play a major role in propping up our care system across the country. But so do the nation's family caregivers, who oftentimes don't get paid to provide care. Turner is one of a growing group of Black male caregivers. Get this, almost 40% of caregivers of older adults are men, 40%. And a third of that group is Black, but Black men face some issues that other guys just don't. One is their health. African American men have some of the worst health outcomes of any group in the United States. We are less likely to be married than other caregivers and more likely to be taking care of someone by themselves. As a group, according to this NPR report, Black male caregivers also deal with negative perceptions about who they are. Several years ago, Robert Turner, who I mentioned earlier, brought his personal and professional lives together when he decided to research Black male caregivers. His day job is as an associate professor of the School of Medicine and Health Sciences at George Washington University. He specializes in sociology and neurology. And he's been conducting a study into the brain health of Black men who look after someone with dementia. You see, Turner's father, who's Robert Sr., he has Alzheimer's. And he was quiet and withdrawn at the hospital, but he perks up as soon as he gets back to his familiar surroundings, smiling and chatting. The mango ice cream that his son bought is a little difficult to eat given the new cast on his arm, but he doesn't let that stop him. He doesn't let that stop him. And so it's important that as we think about all the challenges related to family caregiving, that we think about how those challenges impact us differently. And we don't hear enough stories about Black men as a part of the solution when it comes to issues that impact all of our families. And so if you haven't already, you should check out this article that was published by NPR today. It's called Black Men Are a Hidden Segment of Caregivers. It's stressful but rewarding too. And so our thanks to Robert Turner for sharing his story and reminding us that, again, Black men are caregivers and we have our unique set of challenges as well. Speaking of challenges, now look, Robert, you're funny. Let me just say this. I love a good cup of tea. In fact, most mornings I start the day with a cup of tea. Number one, it's good for the vocal cords. Hello, wakes them right on up. But number two, I'm just not a coffee person, never have been. And when I saw this headline, it made me want to go to my cupboard to see, well, wait a minute, I want to make sure I don't have that tea sitting around that could potentially cause harm. There is some pesticide concern that's prompting the recall of nearly 900,000 Yogi Echinacea immune support tea bags. Hundreds of thousands of bags of organic Yogi Echinacea immune support tea were voluntarily recalled by the East West Tea Company earlier this month after pesticide residue was detected at levels that are unsafe for consumption. The traces of pesticides were found as part of a routine audit procedure. This is according to the folks over at Yogi. The company said that it doesn't use pesticides in its farming, but they can drift onto their land if a neighboring farm is applying pesticides or chemical fertilizer. Yogi also said that traces of the pesticides found in the echinacea pose no risk of harm or illness, but that the product did not meet its high quality standards. That's what Yogi said. You want to know what the U.S. Food and Drug Administration said? The FDA. The FDA was notified by Yogi, and they're still investigating the recall of, again, nearly 900,000 bags that showed toxicity above action level. The FDA established action levels for things like pesticides based on what is and isn't avoidable around the growing of food. So in this case, the tea was found to have an avoidable amount of pesticides. So a voluntary recall was issued by the company. If like me, you are thumbing through your cabinets to see if you have any of this tea in your possession, let me tell you what to look for. The organic Yogi Echinacea Immune Support Tea is sold in boxes that include 4 packs each, and equally 64 bags in total. They are marked with UPC number 076950 450103. The case G10 on the recalled products are 6007 695 50105 and 2007 695 50107. And so the recall lot numbers are plenty, but if you see the case G10 number that I just read to you, or the UPC number I just read to you, chances are that that echinacea tea, that organic Yogi Echinacea immune support tea, to be more specific, is on the recall list. And so I would imagine you can take it back to the store to exchange it or get your refund. But that's what USA Today reported just today. And it's just a reminder that we need to be on the lookout for all of the safety measures that, based on all the safety measures that are in place, we need to still be on the lookout, and that consumer protection matters. And so having folks like Sheila Clark to give us the information we need in order to protect our loved ones that are in hospice care, or who are being who are the subject of fraud by some of the scammers out there, that's a consumer protection. Putting out these alerts around products not being safe, that's a consumer protection. And we want to definitely do our part here on A More Perfect Union to provide you with the things to keep yourself safe and keep your family safe. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the Village that helps us produce A More Perfect Union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer extraordinaire, Miles Lowe, our show producer, Robert Battles, and our podcast publishing guru, Odell Bodie. And of course, each and every one of you, you're why we do this. And we hope you have enjoyed the show. Remember, don't panic, organize. Do what you can from where you are with what you have. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. You've been listening to